Good afternoon, everyone. Two topics, technology and ethics, both in varying degrees of intimidation for lawyers, and so we will try to make these topics a little bit less intimidating today. But I want to start out with, as most of you know that are members of OBA, I've been over 20 years full-time with law practice management and technology as my field of study. And so I want to start out with kind of a predicate moment, if you will. Every law firm is a technology business. And I know for some of you that's kind of a horrifying thought, that every law firm might be considered a technology business. I will cite as my authority the Wall Street Journal when they changed the name of their marketplace section to business and tech. They said every business is a technology business, be it taxi cabs or taco delivery. And if that's the case, what do lawyers manage in their practices? I'd say we manage information. I'd say every document that we create in the geek world is an information container. IT stands for information technology. And so most of what lawyers do is process information, albeit with certain ethical restrictions and safeguards. And so I've actually written about this for the ABA's Law Practice magazine. And you can Google my name and that topic to find that if you're further interested in this topic. But we're mainly going to talk about ethics today, and that's rules. And so I thought to make this flow a little better, I'd kind of like to get all the rules out of the way first, and then we would use examples of some of the rules. And so first rule is about competence. As a lawyer shall provide competent representation, and that's Rule 1.1, one of the early and most important rules. And a couple of years ago, we added changed comment 6 to say that competency now involves the understanding of the risks and benefits associated with technology. And so it's in the rules, it's a comment, not a rule, but I think today we have to understand that that's a part of our obligation. And for many of us that went to law school because we didn't want to go to engineering school or all these other types of things, here we are. But hopefully today we can talk about that a little bit. Another important ethics rule, 1.3, says the lawyer shall act with reasonable diligence and promptness in representing a client. 1.6, this used to be really simple. A lawyer shall not reveal the information related to the client unless the client gives consent. And then there were 6 exceptions. You can look at those enumerated in the rule. Things like preventing the client from using your services to defraud somebody or commit a crime or certain things like that. But when I say that used to be easy, is used to, we didn't have to worry about the accidental or inadvertent disclosure of technology, of information belonging to clients near as much. In fact, technology was the first time we really got into the accidental exposure of client information when we all started dealing with fax machines. And then, as those of you who were around at that time remember that dialing the wrong number in the fax machine would send a document to somebody else, and of course Murphy's Law would always be the worst person to get that information. But now we have hackers, we have all sorts of threats that come to us via the internet, lots of different challenges. And so, again, Comment 16 says that if you have made reasonable efforts to prevent the access or disclosure of this information, then you're not at fault. And I think that's important for us to internalize, because in the legal profession, we tend to feel like we only have 2 standards of conduct: perfection and malpractice. And that's what it often seems like. And so this isn't in that area. This is like, there could be something new come out tomorrow that would be a threat to client information that we wouldn't have any way of dealing with it. And so I just want everybody to understand the reasonable efforts involved. And I've enumerated the main ones here: the sensitivity of the information. We'll talk about email a little bit more specific, but I already tell lawyers there's things you shouldn't be emailing right now. The most common is a QUADRO, Qualified Domestic Relations Order. We usually email those back and forth while we draft them. But that's a kit for a hacker to steal that retirement fund. And so we can't use email for that type of thing, and I can go through a whole lot of examples. But there are some common sense standards. Obviously, we could have a perfect system that would be too cumbersome to work. If we unplugged every computer from the internet, we're totally protected from hackers. But I still think these ideas that you don't have to be perfect, but you also can't put your head in the sand and say, I don't know anything about technology, it's not my job. I practiced law so long that I literally remember, so long ago, that I literally remember when the standard of conduct for a lot of family lawyers was, I don't know anything about taxes. You'll have to talk to a CPA or somebody to understand the tax consequences of your divorce decree, because I don't do that. And today, we all believe that was not the standard of professional care, that you have to understand the difference between support alimony and these different types of things that can be awarded in a divorce case. So, but there's also some exceptions or some flex with this. A client may require greater security. And frankly, if I was to go back practicing law, if I had a client that says you're not allowed to put any of my information in the cloud for any reason whatsoever, I would probably say I'm not the right lawyer for you, because my process is going to involve a lot of cloud-based tools. And we'll talk about why I think those are not only ethical, but more ethical than some of our systems. But a client can also give informed consent to less. And the rule also notes that there are other regulatory and legal burdens that we also may have to comply with that are outside the scope of the ethics rules. So let's talk a little bit about the basics of computer security. So everybody get ready to be scared. We're going to talk about cybersecurity. We're going to see if we can make all of you cybersecurity experts today in about 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm looking forward to that. I know you are. So, most important thing for a user is to not have weak passwords. You must have strong passwords, and you must not use the password for many different sites, at least many different sites that have the same password for important information. Well, it's literally impossible to do both those things with the human brain. You can't have 25 character passwords or 9 or 12 character passwords and a different one for every site and remember them. So the key to that, and we're getting close, I got to be careful because I work for the Bar Association, which is also the regulatory body, and so I don't want to say, yes, you have to do this, because there's not a rule saying you have to do this, but practically, if I want to manage 50, 9 to 12 character passwords, the only way to do that is with a password manager, in my view. And so these are little secure devices that go on your device, on your phone, on your computer, and then you just have to know the password to open your device, or the key lock, and the password to open your password manager. And then any other website that you go to, it'll fill in the password for you if you set it up correctly, and it'll also generate passwords for you. So literally every one of your passwords can be 40 characters long, containing dozens of symbols, no word that appears in the dictionary, and it'll remember them for you, and yet that is literally impossible to hack, at least within any of our lifetimes. Where if you've got the kind of, even the complex password somebody uses, 2 words separated by a number, if a hacker has to know that, it doesn't take that much effort to run every word in the dictionary they take a hash of the website first, and then offline they'll just run every word in the dictionary, add it to what they call a brute force attack. So I think password managers are pretty important. The farthest column for me is some of the most common passwords that turn up in the list every year, passwords that everybody uses. A hacker would grab these first. You may say, well, that top one, now that doesn't look like a common password. How would that be the common password? Well, that's what you get if you put your shift key on and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the symbols all above that, and that's one of the more common passwords, believe it or not. We're finally to the point where password itself does not top the list. For several years, password was always the one, like, that's a genius move. But on the other hand, if you don't take my advice about the password managers, you see how setting up pass-phrases, the first one, pass go, and collect $200, where you're just going to say every time there's an A in it, I'm going to use the ampersand. Again, you can see these different things that we've kind of come up with where you can remember it. I hope that convinces you that it's easier to pay, $40 or $50 a year, or even one for $12 a year for a password manager than to try to remember all of this. How do you find out what a password manager is? Or what's a good password manager? What's a bad one? Okay, this is my trick I used for years. My first few years I worked with the bar, Google was like my best resource. Lawyers would call me up, ask me questions, I'd Google it, find the answer, tell them the answer. It was a great job. But literally, if you'll just do best password managers and put the year in there, you can come up with these lists where people have vetted the password managers and rated them and found out what's good for them. Now if you do something like best passwords of 2019, I always use the year in there so I get a current one and not a popular one from 2 years ago in my Google search results. But if you use that, you need to kind of skip past the first 5 or 6, those websites that say, you know, bestpasswords.com and the ones that are paid for and whatever, and get to ones like CNET, Wirecutter, PC Mag, the ones where they're actually journalists that are reviewing the password managers. And but again, you know, LastPass, it's like $1 a month per device. There's some pretty cheap password managers out there. If you get a good one, you can also do things like, you know, put your driver's license, your passport, all those types of things in it, your credit card information in it. They're pretty handy devices, and I've actually talked to, I didn't talk to them personally, but when I was at Tech Show, a lawyer mentioned that they were in another country and lost their passport. And it was much easier at the embassy to be able to show the picture of their passport on the phone as they went through that. So you can store a lot of secure documents in these password managers. These are some of the leading ones. 1Password is used by a lot of the Mac people because that has its roots in the Mac world, but all these will work on any device. LastPass is one of the cheapest. RoboForm is probably the best if you want to, like, if you do a lot of online shopping, and so you want to put all your credit cards in there in a format where you can load them into the thing. But how's this legal ethics? Because that's how they crack your website, your information, your computer to get your client's information. And using a password manager will really do good about that. So I've got 4 best ways they assist you. They keep you from using the main password all the time, and whatever. I think I already covered those 4 points. That's only part of the challenge, because we are always seeing news stories where it's reported that some company was broken into and 20,000 or 100,000 passwords were stolen. So, you know, it doesn't do much good to have the best password in the world and even though you're secure with the password manager if somebody cracks the website and they steal everybody's passwords. There's actually a way to protect yourself against that. It's called 2-factor or multi-factor authentication. And what this means is something you know plus something you have or something you are. So the most common one of these is a password plus a fingerprint. And most people, if you have iPhones, you know, that's kind of the way you open up your iPhone and your fingerprint, whatever. Great for mobile devices. I don't recommend you use any biometrics for any online login. We're just still not there yet in terms of security, and I only have 10 fingerprints to work with in my whole life, and I don't want one of them getting cracked and compromised. So the most common way to use 2-factor authentication is to have a text message sent to your cell phone every time you log into the site, and you get the code. And if you haven't set up things like your retirement plans and bank accounts with that, you really should think about doing that. Because then if the hacker gets in, cracks every password for every user of the service, they can't get to my account. They may have my username and password, but they don't have my phone. So they don't have the ability to crack my information. So this is really an important part of cybersecurity for all of us. Let's talk about the danger zone here. Free Wi-Fi. Free Wi-Fi is perhaps one of the scariest labels that we've all probably done it one time or another, but for security experts, it's one of the scariest things to look about. Free Wi-Fi is generally not safe. It's period not safe if you could just log in and you don't have to have a password. We know that's not safe because anybody can log in. But even if you are at your friendly neighborhood Starbucks and they have free Wi-Fi there, well, when you go in Starbucks and you order your latte and they write your name on the cup and you say, hey, I've got my device, I want to use your free Wi-Fi, and they give you the password, that's fairly secure. The problem is the person in line ahead of you is a hacker. And the person in line ahead of you is the same password you got, and then he or she sets up a hotspot called Starbucks 2 or Starbucks Faster or Starbucks with an X at the end or whatever it might be. And then if you're not paying attention and you click on that one, it says, here's your password, you log it in, well, yeah, that's the right one, you got it from the Starbucks counter. They can then record and track every keystroke, every website, every password you enter by using that. And so consequently, I don't see, even the free Wi-Fi with a password is problematic. Of course, you know, as a lawyer, I try not to bring up something like that without a solution. Your solution is more on the ultra geeky level. It's a virtual private network, or VPN. And VPNs are basically building a secure tunnel from your computer to your site. And so that means I can't say 100%, but I could go in the 90s. It's pretty safe then to use the password at the Starbucks. And again, you know, some of these things, just like law, we just don't know to say 100%. This is really safe, and the good thing about this is kind of the old story about locking your door in the neighborhood. The burglar will just go on to an easier place. That's the way this is. They're not going to bother trying to crack your VPN. I was driving home after work one day, listening to the story on National Public Radio, and they said, guess what? All VPNs are not legitimate now. Some of the most popular VPNs, particularly in the Google Play Store, Apple, for good or bad, bets their products a little bit better, are not legitimate. They're just credit card processing. So they give you a login, they charge your credit card. Again, how do I know what's a legitimate VPN? I already taught you this trick, right? You Google best VPN services for 2019, and you find an authoritative website where they've reviewed all of the VPN services. So it's pretty simple. It's not that hard. If you just want one for your phone, you know, you'll probably pay anywhere from $15 to $50 a year to have one on your phone or your computer. You know, if you want one for your whole enterprise, then that's for your IT people to set up, and everybody who logs in remotely can log into a VPN. They've got to set that up on their computers. It's a more complex process than just renting one on an annual basis for your phone. If you really want to have a strong, safe connection, the phone companies have been dealing with hackers way before the internet even existed. One of the first things hackers did was break into the phone company, and they like to call a phone booth outside Big Ben in Great Britain and have all these other things they like to do. So if you really want super secure, you can buy one of these or purchase one of these hotspots, Jetpack, they call them, MyPiCard. They have lots of different brand names. And the one I have costs $60 a month, so it's not cheap, but it also allows 5 people to use it. So, and it has the code on the front of the thing displayed in the digits. So basically, if I'm at a meeting, nobody has internet access, I can just toss it on the table, and the first 5 people that log in can use it. But this is a very strong encrypted signal using the phone company services rather than the internet, and it's probably the most secure method to log in remotely. I see a few people glazing over. Hang with me. All of these things I've just mentioned are consumer products you can buy. They'll tell you how to set them up at the AT&T store. It's not that challenging for most of them. Okay, let's talk about securing our computer network. No, I wish we could hire private security, looking down ominous to secure our computer network. Your biggest weakness, your biggest security weakness, and I can say this without contradiction, is you and your people. That's the big weakness in your system, because we're fallible human beings, and breaches normally aren't the movie of the guys in the hoods and the hoodies in the dark room, and they're trying to break into your system over the internet. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Most of those are actually foreign actors today rather than criminals, but that can happen. But the way you're normally going to get compromised is somebody clicking on an attachment, somebody opening a file, somebody dealing with something that then opens up something that crawls through your network and does terrible things. And it may be something, if it's a sophisticated hack, you may not even know about it. It may just install itself on your computer, start trying to steal your keystrokes or other things. So clicking on an email attachment, attaching a flash drive that's compromised. If you're in a big organization, people will just call up and work people that are really good at it. Question? The question was, is using the hotspot on your phone the same as buying one of those MiFi cards? And I erred to not say that. That's absolutely true. It's the same security as using one of those MiFi cards. It's just as opposed to paying separately for a MiFi card, it's going to go against your data plan. So whether that's economic or not depends on your data plan. But a hotspot on your phone is the same thing as the MiFi card. So thanks for that question, because I probably should have said that. Other questions? Okay. So your people are the problem. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk about wire fraud in a minute, but while I'm talking to your people, I think I'll tell the wire fraud story right now. Hackers got into a lawyer's, within the last 3 or 4 months, got into a lawyer's Office 365 account. We don't know how they did it. I don't have proof that they did it, but rationally I know that's what happened. They were inside the lawyer's Office 365 account. Now that's horrible. They can read all your emails. They can send emails that appear to come from you. They can look at all your files in OneDrive. That's like the ultimate hack. It's very scary. This hacker got in and monitored the system. Again, I'm making suppositions here. I don't have facts on this, but monitored the system until they figured out a day the lawyer was going to be totally out of contact all day. And then they started emailing his assistant, hey, we got something big cooking. We may need to wire money out of our trust account. Find out the instructions, which bank we should use. All day long, they knew what time zone they were working, right? 3 or 4 times during the day. Had a client's name because they'd been in the lawyer's computer. Finally, about 4 o'clock, when everybody's busy, the strike. Okay, I need you to wire $250,000 out of my trust account to this address I'm going to send you. Well, you don't have $250,000 in your trust account. Oh, wow. How much do we have? Well, you have X. How much does that client have? All this by email. The client has what? Well, go ahead and wire $60,000 out. That's more than the client has in his account, but I'm going to show up in the morning with a big cashier's check to cover it up. Luckily, at that point, the staff person said, my lawyer would never do that. Called the lawyer on the cell phone and figured out that she'd been corresponding with the criminal all day long, pretending to be the lawyer. We, changed the Office 365 password in everybody's computer on the system. We haven't had any more problems. But make sure that your staff understands that they won't get in trouble for being cautious about email attachments and links. I get these things all the time, folks. Some lawyer gets compromised and they send out something to everybody in their address book. I'm in a lot of lawyers' address books and I get it. So make sure your staff knows these things prey on the basic human emotions: fear, greed, lust, anger. Around Christmas 2 years ago, an email went out to a few hundred lawyers in Oklahoma from the OBA. Now, if you just look at the email address, you'd say that in the OBA, but it said grievance. And you open it up and it says, a client has filed a grievance against you. You have 20 days to respond. Click here to download the copy of the grievance. Now, if you just don't hit that rage fear thing, if you think for a second, you go, the bar doesn't do that. They do that by mail. They don't do that by electronics. But still, we had more than one lawyer compromised by that effort. And I'm going to tell you, if you get one of these ransomware things, they will encrypt everything on your network. In fact, one of the worst disasters you can have on a busy week is come in and find every one of your computers looks like this. And anymore, the ransom demands don't even work because the FBI, as soon as they get word of it, they kill the way to pay the ransom because they're trying not to encourage criminals. So this is a scary proposition. That's why cloud is so good, because none of these jump to the cloud. It's just the things on your network. So everybody, if you've been backing up regularly, you just wipe your computer, restore it from the cloud, you're good to go. If you got to back up to the cloud. But it's very important for you to understand that. Now let's talk about email. Email is not secure. Period, end of story. You don't get much email from your medical professionals anymore because of HIPAA. Your bankers, I know we got some bankers here, you don't get much email from your bankers that says anything other than just plain generic type of things. In fact, I've had most of the scams that I've seen that have been defeated, the lawyers got help from their banker. It's pretty much banking policy. If you get an unusual request from somebody that doesn't wire out money off and wire a large amount of money somewhere, that you call them first before you do it. And so that's great. But again, tax returns, adoption decrees, anything with personally identifiable information like security numbers, I account numbers, none of those things should go through email. And for most of you, the solution will be a client portal. And again, thanks to HIPAA, most people that would have been reluctant 10 years ago to use a client portal, they've already had to do it to get their healthcare information, to get their lab results, to get whatever it is. They also shop on Amazon. So it's not that unusual to give somebody a secure client portal. If you aren't going to use practice management software, my favorite tool is a product called Citrix ShareFile. It works really well, but for most of you, the solution is to think about converting to digital client files and use practice management solutions to organize all your client files, and they provide a client portal as a part of their many services in the practice management portal. And it makes it easier because I'm already filing the document file now, I just say share with client, and it works out really nice and automatic. Encryption of email is possible. Most people don't like it. That's why I like ShareFile, that lets you kind of encrypt email by clicking on the button in your Outlook. But there's lots of different ways to do it. But this is a really good opinion. Texas, not good about Texas, but opinion 648 says, do you have to encrypt email? Like every ethics opinion, it says no. But it also says, but a lot of times you will. And then it lists a dozen reasons. You know, somebody else uses the computer of your client. This can happen. They're using a shared computer. Anytime a client is emailing you from their employer's computer, that information is likely compromised because every employer now has to sign an employer manual saying, I have a right to look at every email without notice because I own the system. So people don't like Gmail and Yahoo Mail, we'll talk about that, but I would prefer that a dozen times over using the client's employer's computer. So that's important to know. So again, I know we're talking about ethics here, but in the summer, the OBA recognized as member benefits 6 practice management tools. That means we vetted those and looked over them. In fact, the person that had a large part of vetting those is in the room today. But all of these provide client portals. They all provide a complete billing and accounting tool. They all provide unlimited space to scan and store every document and every client file. That sounds kind of geeky to many of you. That has to be the way of the future. When a client calls you at home, you want to be able to pull up that client file on your phone, even though you didn't think they were going to call. You want to be able to answer their question, make a note in the file what you told them right there on your phone, and then do a billing entry right there on your phone at home. All these tools are all combined in practice management solutions. Tools like Clio and Rocket Matter, and in my case, and ZolaSuite, and Practice Manager. All these are combined together, and these tools cost anywhere from $40 to something maybe $100 a user a month. Or 40, 50 is kind of the normal range for these. So, I'm not telling you what to do. The bar isn't telling you what to do. But I will tell you that all the cool firms use client portals to protect their client information. And I'll also tell you that then it becomes easier just to share everything that way. So imagine your client who isn't very good at keeping track of paper. Sometimes they're your client because they're not very good at keeping track of their lives. Imagine them be able to log in and see every document you've ever sent them during the representation to review, all throughout the representation. It's a great client service too. And if you're a solo lawyer, it really makes you look like you're on a sound footing with all the biggest law firms in town. The fact that you can provide a client portal. They don't know that you're just paying a monthly subscription for that tool to organize your files and whatever. So again, it's a great client service. Here's the way one of them looks. MyPace, where you have the portal there. Some of them even have the balance due on the bill. Where they log in the portal, there's how much money you owe every moment. I think that's a little pushy, but some people have that. But this idea, some of them looked at social media, so some of them, when you share documents, the client has a like button they can click on saying they liked it. Lots of different tools. But the cool thing is when you get a grievance at the OBA, and somebody says, she never sent me that document, I've never seen it. I don't know what they're talking about. You can go into the tracking of the client portal and show the 3 different times they opened that document. And it's pretty much solid proof because you don't have the ability to go into that service clear across another state or another to do that. So it's a great way to protect yourself, and it operates within the tool you're using all day. Okay, lots to cover, a short amount of time, but those are the main points I wanted to share with you today. I hope, and again, those of you who are OBA members, you can call or email me all the time. It's my full-time job. Julie Mays is our practice management advisor, and we answer these kind of questions all the time. Competency in law firms means the ability to properly redact a document. We saw this happen in the Florida school massacre, where the shooter was killed and the school needed to share information. Judge told them to, but they said first you have to redact the information out. So some big law firm, probably getting a lot of money, assigned their lowest secretary probably, or their newest secretary to do this, and said redact this file, and they went in and drew black boxes on top of the redacted words. And of course, every time a journalist gets a redacted file today, the first thing they look at is see if it's really redacted or just black boxes. So good redaction can easily be done through products like Adobe Acrobat DC or Nuance PDF Converter Pro. If you don't know how to do redaction, you're a little scared, print the thing out, black it out with magic marker, scan it again. There's ways to make sure you get that done right. But this is an embarrassing situation. If this law firm, a judge told her to do this, and now every reporter in the country is reporting on the document that they were supposed to share. I already mentioned about the wire fraud, but you can build or locate a system to prevent it. And my advice today, and like I said, the bankers here listening, they can tell you if I got it wrong, but I would tell my staff, you can't wire out money unless you see me face to face tell you, or you hear me tell you over the phone, and you're sure it's my voice. Any electronic communication just has an element of risk. And so I think, now if you're a big company, where you're, if you work for a real estate company, it's wire out money all day long. I mean, you get a bonded employee, you do what you can with it, you train them well. But in our world, we just want to just make sure, and again, not to cast too big a stone, but I think if you're sending the link to where to wire the money, or the information where to wire the money by plain text email, you're really committing negligence per se. Because we've already had a lawyer report to us that somebody intercepted his email, substituted different wiring instructions, sent it on to the bank, and then the banker called him and says, you know you're wiring this money to Nigeria? No, don't do that. So again, that's probably, again, the most important lessons for you. We have a few more minutes though, we can cover everything. Encryption is increasingly important. Encryption basically means encoding information where it can't be read by anybody without a password. And so we talked about encrypted email. It theoretically works, but it doesn't work very easily because nobody wants to mess with it. And your clients don't want to mess with it, and you don't want to mess with it. That's why I prefer the client portal. But it is a safe harbor, I will tell you. Under HIPAA, at least, we haven't had an ethics case on it yet, but I think the same logic would apply. If you lose personally identifiable information from your client, you have to notify your client. So, if you lose your whole laptop, does that mean you have to notify every client? And I'm not saying that's a hard and fast law. The data breach notification law was actually a little weak, but we'll worry about that another time. But HIPAA says, and I think the logic would apply in the lawyer discipline case, that if you lose information that is encrypted, it is deemed to be not lost because it can't be cracked. It can't be get into. It's the same way. If I lose my computer, I have to notify all my clients. If I foolishly take my computer fishing with me and I drop it over the edge of Lake Tenkiller, where it's really deep, do I have to notify my clients? I'd say probably not. At that point, that's probably done. But that's a guess. But the safe harbor rules are really important for us to understand why encrypted data. And so you can encrypt your hard drive in Windows. It's called BitLocker. Can't see my show notes here, but there's another tool that's been in Macs for a long time that also is built in. But you can actually encrypt your hard drive, all or part of it, in your computer. You need to read about that a little bit. Some lawyers are concerned about this. They want to address communication security in their attorney-client agreement. And you can do that if you want to. But again, my firm, if I was having a firm today, would be running on cloud-based practice management solutions. So if we're all home, we can log in and have the same file with a copy of every document that's been scanned in the client file. It's just the same way it worked. That's the best way. When I was practicing law, the only way you could work at home but not effectively is if you knew in advance to take the file home with you. But now you'll have access to any of these files on your phone. Talk a little bit about technology competency for the family lawyer. Many of you read this back in August 2018, but August is a busy time with kids going back to school and such. This was inspired by a story in the New York Times where a woman was, her friends had about decided that she was going to have to be hospitalized because of how poorly she was reacting to her divorce. She couldn't sleep at night. She was having hallucinations, she said. The doorbell would ring in the middle of the night and she'd get up to answer and there'd be nobody there. She'd wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, and apparently she'd turned up the thermostat to 90 while she was asleep, and now the heater had been running all night. Her ex-spouse seemed to have almost mystical powers to know who she'd been visiting with and where she'd been going. This was all a result of the fact that she didn't know and her lawyer didn't know that when you get divorced, you have to change your Wi-Fi password. So usually in a household, there's one spouse who does all this cool Internet of Things stuff, and there's another who's just the user. And if you're representing the user, you need to be careful about that. If you've got two people sharing iPhone accounts, and they don't think about that, they could track them within 10 feet all the time. Even if they know their iTunes password, they can log in and do Find My iPhone and find out where their spouse is at that moment. And so I thought this would be a good article for the Bar Journal. Well, as I researched this, I ended up coming up with about 20 things you should probably tell your client about cybersecurity. And I'm a little hesitant. I'm not against the Internet of Things per se, but if you're going to put automated things like doorbells and thermostats or whatever in your office, buy the most expensive ones you can from a brand name company. I was once at Home Depot where they had a whole bunch of those cool lights at Christmas that were really marked down, that you can change the light color with your phone and whatever. I knew why they were marked down, because that company got out of business, which meant there were going to be no more security updates for that to them, which meant eventually somebody was going to decide to see if they could get into your Christmas lights, to your Wi-Fi network, and to your computer. So it's real simple. Be cautious about the Internet of Things. I love Alexa, I'm sorry. I know a lot of lawyers are cautious about that, but we unplug our Echo a lot too. It's all good. You can do that too. But this article, you can find it in the Bar Journal on our website, August 2018. I'm happy for you to copy and paste all my points out and make it a document for your family law client. You don't have to give me credit or anything like that, but go ahead and give that to your client. Security in the cloud, I mentioned that before. We're getting close on our time, 10 minutes left looks like, but I do want to talk about that just a little bit, what the cloud is. The cloud's, you know why we call it cloud computing? You might find this interesting. We call it cloud computing because in the old days when they diagram networks and they do little pictures of printers, fax machines, and computers and all that on the network, the symbol for an internet connection was the cloud. And that's why we call it cloud computing. You want to see the cloud? I have a picture. It looks like this. Giant warehouses, and each one of those tall boxes has what looks like about 30 laptops in it that are really hard drives. And these things are, so these cloud computing services, this is where they live. Most cloud computing services just lease either Google or Amazon Web Services or 2 or 3 others. These things run so much they have to have giant air conditioning units 365 days a year because they generate so much heat. But that's what the cloud is. One state bar actually quoted this ethics opinion. Quinn Norton has been pretty familiar with all. She said, cloud computing is just a fancy way of saying stuff's not on your computer. It's on a company server, perhaps many servers, possibly all over the world. Your computer's just a way of getting your stuff. Your computer's an interface, but not where the magic happens. And I would say today, most of those computers are probably going to be in the U.S. because that all around the world thing got really spooky for a lot of us, whatever, at some time. But I did see a person in the airport one time with a big sticker on the back of her laptop, and it was a picture of a cloud with a sad face and a tear. And it said, "There's no cloud, it's just somebody else's computer." But that's one way of looking at it. But I do want you to pay attention to that. But my belief, and I've told this to lots of audiences, and if you get in trouble with the bar, you can blame it on me, because I've told it to everybody, I have plenty of witnesses. There's no way that you can have in your office with your computer connected to the internet the security that one of these multi-million-dollar operations have with full-time engineers, full-time experts, and the ability to move quickly. What if the great new hack that beats all the systems comes out at 3 in the morning? Well, you're not going to be able to deal with that. This is why the cloud is so much stronger. Your risk And we lawyers say, go to my office and say, your risk is being connected to the internet. And if you're not going to be connected to the internet, they call it air gap, you're great. You've got total security, although you're not going to get security updates, which you don't need. So think about using the cloud for more security. Again, I'm available to talk to you about it. Let's finish up our last few minutes with some social media blunders. They're always fun to talk about. A assistant public defender who was very frustrated with her life and her job used to blog about her clients. She'd changed her name. She had a client named Carlos. She called him Carl in her blogging. Really swift. So every one of her clients was easily identified. When you people have lived with OSCN for a long time understand how that's going to work. She even posted one time that my client's brother is such an idiot, he's trying to convince us to let him plead guilty because he didn't have any priors and his brother would go to prison where he'd get probation. We're like, okay, now your blogging has not only breached the client confidences, but you've implicated a third party in a criminal conspiracy, potentially. So she lost her license for some time, she lost her job. You got to be careful about social media, folks. A murder trial was declared a mistrial because a lawyer who was representing the defendant thought it was funny that when they brought the nice suit for the defendant to wear in court, his underwear was like a leopard skin pattern. And so she thought that was funny, so she took a picture of it and posted it on her Facebook. She didn't think it'd be that big a deal because she only had like 50 Facebook friends, but one of those was a lawyer who shared it with another lawyer who shared it with the judge, and the judge had to declare a mistrial in a murder case because of that picture. Social media is just not worth that, folks. And then recently, the Louisiana Supreme Court disbarred a former U.S. attorney because he was live blogging about things he was posting, prosecution of police officers of all things, not something that you don't think are a high-profile case, and he's live blogging about it. Bottom line, and this is easy, if you think it's cool to blog about your client's matter or to Facebook share your client's matter, while there's a certain level that you can't get to at all, most of the time, write up the blog post, send it to the client, and get their permission that they think it's okay. That way you've got their permission that they not only agreed to you blogging about it, but they agreed to what you said. And otherwise, if they won't do that, you really have to ask yourself, is this worthwhile? Well, we just got, 4 minutes left. Sorry, I had to look at your cards. Okay, I got one more little topic, but we'll talk about questions first. Any other questions? Oh, come on. No questions? See, you had the best question of the day in the front row. Okay, well, let's finish up with just a quick notice of differences in the country in the last few years. And one of those is the border. How do you protect your devices on the border? And I'm going to tell you, I had 2 friends go to Russia, or I had a friend and a brother friend go to Russia. One said, I'm not worrying about taking a different phone. I'll just go with my stuff. It'll all be fine. And we don't know anything happened. He came back just fine. Another is a librarian. His brother went to Russia. Somebody handed him a flash drive with some papers, and now he's in prison in Russia accused of espionage. So I just want to warn you, I would not take my real cell phone and my real laptop across the Chinese border or across the Russian border. And I'm pretty sure in China there's places that just grab the information as a part of the customs process right when you go through there. But just so you know, travel as data light as possible. Remove all your clients' emails. Use remote access as possible. Because even when you're coming back home, they can make you open up your phone and give your password in, and they can look through all your emails. And that's legal at the border, but once you get on the U.S. side of the border, it's not. And so be cautious about that. Clear your browser history, encrypt before, restore after returning home. Again, I'm thinking you just buy a burner phone and throw it away and get back from your trip overseas. Well, I have a famous quote to end with. Computers let you make more mistakes faster than any invention in human history, with the possible exceptions of handguns and tequila. Thank you very much for your time, folks.